Hey, this is Owen. If you're comfortable, leave your first name and state at the sound of the tiny truck backing up.
Yeah, hey, Owen, this is Eric from Mass. You should go to congress.gov and read the bill itself, HR 6666.
Okay, so I talked about somebody named Clay Clark last week, or a couple weeks ago. Anyway, Clay Clark is the organizer of the Reawaken America tour, and he made some bizarre, unhinged claims about the bill HR 6666. Okay, so what I did was I listened to his claims, and I went to a Reuters fact check article and read the fact checks. He just flat out lied about the bill. It wasn't true what he said. It was incorrect information. It was misinformation. I don't know if he was intentionally lying or what, but what he said was wrong, according to the article. So what this guy is telling me here is that I should just go straight to congress.gov and read the bill myself, right?
Self, HR 6666. Reuters is lying,
Reuters is lying. Okay, tall claim.
and all the social media and all the media lies. I mean, you can go directly to the source. You've been fooled. I understand that. But maybe, I don't know if you're one of these that's hiding the truth deliberately or you just don't know. But we're going to find out, aren't we?
But we're going to find out, aren't we? Interesting. Okay. Don't know if I'm one of those that's deliberately hiding the truth or not, but we're going to find out, aren't we? Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do it. Let's go to congress.gov and let's type in HR space 6666. What were Clay Clark's claims about this bill again? Let me look this up. Yeah, this is a short clip. Let's just listen to what Clay Clark said Bill HR 6666 was trying to accomplish one more time. Just get a little bit of a refresher here.
What do people need to understand in your estimation?
What we need to understand is that Congress is working on legislation called HR 6666. It's HR and then four sixes. That legislation, if that were passed, would make every single person on the planet, or at least in America, to take an RNA-modifying nanotechnology inside your body that has the capacity to control your thoughts.
Okay.
Everybody out there needs to make sure that all of your elected officials need to know, do not let HR...
Okay, well, it sounds like that was the claim. It sounds like, just for good measure, let's listen to that one more time.
Would make every single person on the planet, or at least in America, to take an RNA-modifying nanotechnology inside your body that has the capacity to control your thoughts.
Okay, so he's saying basically, in layman's terms, HR 6666 is going to force people to get vaccinated. That's basically what he's saying, right? And he's got all kinds of weird, unhinged, incorrect beliefs about the vaccine, but we'll hit that in a minute. The point is, forced vaccination is what it's supposed to be, right? So we're here, congress.gov. I'm looking it up here. There are two different sets of Congress, 117 and 116. This is 2019 to 2020 and 2021 to 2022. Let's check both. This is the one that he's talking about right here, the 116th Congress, HR 6666, and it's called the Trace Act, and it was put through by Representative Bobby Rush. So this was from the previous term, 2019 to 2020. And it says exactly what Reuters said that it did. Hit the summary. This bill authorizes the CDC to award grants for testing, contact tracing, monitoring, and other activities to address COVID-19. Entities such as federally qualified health centers, nonprofit organizations, and certain hospitals and schools are eligible to receive such grants. So it's just awarding grants to health entities like hospitals or whatever, so that they can afford to do testing and contact tracing and monitoring and things like that. That's it. That's all it is. But for good measure, let's just go back because there, like I said, there's a second bill, HR 6666, from the 117th Congress, 2021 to 2022. And this one isn't even, it doesn't even have a summary yet. But let's just look at the text. It's brand new. To amend the Higher Education Act of 1965 to improve the financial aid process for homeless and foster care youth. Miss Clark of Massachusetts, for herself, and Mr. Young introduced the following bill, which was referred to the Committee of Education and Labor. To amend the Higher Education Act of 1965 to improve the financial aid process for homeless and foster care youth. This act may be cited as Higher Education Access and Success for Homeless and Foster Youth Act of 2022. Well, what Clay Clark said, basically, is that Bill H.R. 6666 was going to force you to be vaccinated. The bill doesn't say anything about that. I understand I didn't read the entire thing just now on stream, but it doesn't. It doesn't say anything about that. You can go there yourself and read it. It's right here, congress.gov. It doesn't say there's anything about, look, we've already moved to another bill. It doesn't say there's anything about forced vaccinations. I don't know what you're trying to say. I'm lying. I'm trying to trick people. What? I don't know. It's nonsense. It's complete nonsense. Sorry, man. I went there. I read the bill. I looked through it. I looked at the summary. Reuters was correct the first time.
Hey, my name is Cage. I'm from STL, Missouri, and I am curious what your opinion on and what your outlook on is on Satanists, people particularly who partake in the Satanic Temple, not church. I don't think I've ever seen anything through your videos where you talk about Satanists at all. And I was just curious, and I was also curious if...
All right, let me take them to one question at a time. First, to talk about the Satanist stuff. You said, how do I feel about the Satanic Temple rather than the Church of Satan? I think they're both good, generally. I think they exist as a pushback against religious control over politics and things like that. And I think that's good. I'm not a Satanist. Even a non-theistic one. I'm just, I don't get into it. But anything that helps weaken the strangleholds that Christian nationalism has on our political system today, I'm all for. So 100%. And yeah, I know there is a difference between the Satanic Temple and the Church of Satan, and I know they get a little touchy about the difference. So make sure you don't mix them up is the point. I appreciate you drawing the distinction there for me. Yeah, I think they're both valuable in the role that they play. Now, as for the second question you had for me.
And I was also curious if you are a Tool fan. I think I went on your account once and I saw through your playlist you had some Tool songs saved, which is rad. I'm a huge fan myself, and I'm kind of curious what your favorite song is as well. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I do have some playlists on YouTube. One of the playlists I have listed as public is a Tool playlist. I'm a massive Tool fan. Love Tool to death. One of my favorite bands of all time. In fact, I'd say it is my favorite band of all time. I would say my favorite song right now is probably Descending or Fear Inoculum from the newer album. I'm actually a big fan of the new album, honestly. I thought it was great. I also really like Right Into, Lateralis. I loved Anima, the old album from 1996, I think, 97. Fantastic album. Push It, Eulogy, Stinkfist. I mean, they were all great. I loved all of them. Just Tool is one of the greatest bands of all time. However, that being said, I did a video a while back about Tool being a little bit too wooey for me, though they're still my favorite band ever. They're also very wooey. And oh my God, you would think that I murdered somebody's kid right in front of them. They did not like that. The audience really got upset and said that I'm not smart enough to understand and blah blah, all that stuff. I do love Tool to death, though. Really, I love Tool. They're one of the best bands ever.
Hi, I'm Matthew from Colorado. My question is, what's the opposite of a cult? If a cult is a group of people who uncritically adhere to a person or ideology.
The definition you just gave, a group of people who uncritically adhere to a person or ideology, I don't accept that definition of cult, but we'll continue and then I'll come back.
Name for some people who uncritically hate people, a person or ideology. For example, people who hate vegans or communism without actually knowing anything about them. Thank you.
My definition of cult is a little bit different. The definition that I go with involves what level of control the group has over its members. Does it control them emotionally? Does it try to discourage them from being friends with outsiders or people who are critical of the religion or group? Do they discourage getting information from outside sources? Do they try to control behavior through a system of rewards and punishments? Things like that. That's what I use to determine if something is a cult or not. Now, as far as groups that uncritically hate certain things like veganism or what was the other thing you said? Veganism or communism, I think. Uncritically hating something doesn't necessarily make it a cult. It could be cult-like behavior, but if you're part of a group that has a tenet that is uncritically hate this thing, that could be part of a broader good versus evil, us versus them mentality. It could be part of thought-stopping techniques, intentionally trying to prevent you from looking into certain things even further. A lot of this could route back to cult-like behavior, cult-like mentality, and it could be part of a cult. I don't think that hating communism in and of itself means that you're in a cult necessarily, or just plain hating veganism. I don't think it necessarily means you're part of an anti-vegan cult. But I do think that there are vegan cults out there, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. And there are also anti-vegan cults out there too. Not to say that all vegans are in a cult or all anti-vegans are. That is not the case. But they do exist out there. I've seen it myself. Anyway, that's my take on it. Hopefully it sheds some light.
Daniel from California. I was just curious. In one of your videos, you mentioned that the reason you were disfellowshipped, or one of the main reasons you were disfellowshipped, is because you smoked a cigarette. I was just wondering, why is it such a big sin in the Jehovah's Witness religion to smoke a cigarette? Anyway, I really like your show. Thanks. Bye.
What it really comes down to is that you stepped outside of the boundaries that the religion set up. You stepped outside of what they expect you to do, how they expect you to act as a human being. They spend a disproportionate amount of time trying to turn you into a clone. You have to work for a minimum of a year to get baptized, at least a year. If you walk into the religion totally green, know nothing about it, it will take you at least a year to get baptized as one. I've seen people get baptized within 6 months of starting if they were born into it. If they were members kind of before that, I've seen that. But they spend all that time, a year or more, trying to turn you into a clone. They want you to be a perfect clone of every other Jehovah's Witness out there, right down to the way that you walk and talk. That's why when you hear things like Stephen Lett and the way that he talks,
the spread of this disease is distressing, to be sure. But we're really not surprised to see the world in the grip of such pestilence, are we?
This cadence that you're seeing here, that you're listening to, the way that he talks, but we're really not surprised to see the grip of this pestilence, are we? That cadence, I'm trying to exaggerate it so that you can pick up on it. Every Jehovah's Witness speaker, like every person that stands up on the podium, has that cadence to some degree. Maybe not as pronounced as Stephen Lett here, governing body member of Jehovah's Witnesses, but they all have some form of that cadence. You can hear it in all of their voices to some degree.
What an experience. That's why loyalty to Jehovah has been so important.
That is so true, Brother Brown. How about you? Has your loyalty ever been tested?
What is on your mind?
I can't believe the nerve that Ben has.
Ben?
Yeah, Ben. He gave me counsel about that talk that I gave last week.
There's no doubt that we're living in critical times, hard to deal with, just as the Apostle Paul prophesied under inspiration in 2 Timothy chapter 3.
They all have it to some degree, and that is a pretty good example of them trying to create clones. They're trying to create a cloned personality so that you're just like everybody else. That's what they want in an ideal world. When you step outside the bounds of what they expect you to do or how they expect you to act, they don't want that to infect everybody else. They don't want individuality. They are fighting that tooth and nail. They'll do anything to prevent that from happening, up to and including excising you from your own friends and family. Cut you out completely. Not allowed to talk to you ever again. Because you're not one of us. You're one of the world. You're not one of the clones. That's why it was such a big deal to smoke a cigarette. Because you're not part of the belief system. You're not part of the cloned personality anymore, and you have no right to be near any of us, pretty much. They call it a mental disease when you leave the religion.